Hey, Launch family, we will get to today's episode in under a minute, but first, I wanted to say a huge thank you from Jeff and I to you for listening, sharing, commenting, and reviewing the show. We weren't sure about rebooting this podcast in this format, but it is clear you're loving it, so we're going to keep going and bringing you more great stuff. And we have a gift for you. Just to show our appreciation, I want you to go check out daretolaunchshow.com/AI. And there you're going to find something called our AI Playbook. This is your ultimate guide to unleashing the power of AI in your business, something we have talked about on the show. It's a proven collection of ChatGPT shortcuts, strategies, prompts, and they're really designed to help you identify and connect with your ideal client. Build an email list, create really powerful offers, and really just get you from your idea phase to your launch faster and easier than ever before. So go to daretolaunchshow.com/AI and pick up your own AI playbook absolutely free. Now here's today's Dare to Launch.
There's so many things to explore in this life, right? That work. And then that's when I realized that this company I created to be free was actually a jail.
Just fast forward for everyone. Olivier has now coached thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs.
And this launch made more or less 140,000 euros in 1 week.
And that is a big question people have about when they're starting out is like, do you burn the boats? Do you say, I am all in?
Delete the email app for 7 days and see if you're still alive.
If you take nothing else from this podcast, that's the secret. That is the secret.
Hello, Launch family. So happy to have you listening to today's episode of Dare to Launch. My name is Chris, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Walker.
Hey, everyone.
And today we have a very special guest for you. He is an international speaker, YouTuber, entrepreneur, and writer. He's been a longtime member of Jeff's Platinum Plus Mastermind. Olivier Roland, welcome to Dare to Launch.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Excited to have you here to chat today. I actually read you have been an entrepreneur since you were 19, actually. So that's an early time to start your business adventure. I'd love to start with just maybe how did you become an entrepreneur and a little of your story so our guests can get to know you as well.
Sure. So I started very early. Actually, I found myself in a very interesting situation when I was in high school because when I was 18, I was so bored at school that I was like sleeping on the desk in the classroom. The high school director actually asked me to come to his office and said, okay, Olivier, we need to talk. And when it starts like this, it's never good, right? And he said, you are so demotivated that you are demotivating some teachers. Some teachers are saying that they don't want to go to the classroom when you are there. And so I was like, okay, I didn't know that. So he said, okay, we need to do something because it's not going well, right? And basically, he told me that he will not invite me again for the next year. At the same time, I was a very, very shy teenager. And like many shy guys, I couldn't talk to girls, And in my classroom, we were 32 and there were 28 girls because it was a classroom about literature, because I wanted to be a writer. And like many shy guys, I found solace in computers. Because computers have two very good qualities. First, it's like an infinite amount of interesting stuff you can learn with them. And second, it doesn't require a lot of human interactions. So like many shy guys, I did a deep dive into computers. And I was shy, but I was not completely asocial. I had some friends. And with a friend, we realized that actually like many people were asking us questions about computers all the time. And for them, it was like problems that seemed like really like hard to solve. And for us, it was like we could solve them like super easily. And my friend told me, hey, maybe we could earn money with this skill, because obviously we have some skills. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Let's try. And we had a very good approach at this time because we did the lean startup methodology without knowing it. Because instead of being like, okay, we need to do a business plan over 3 years and then we need to raise some money and do something big, we were like, okay, that's an interesting idea, but how can we test it without, doing something crazy, without endangering ourselves too much, And we were like, okay, maybe we can just buy an ad in a local newspaper for very cheap, and see if we can make some money out of it. And we paid around 10 euros at the time, which is around $10, right? And we gained 800 euros in 1 month with just with one ad by going to people's home and solving their computer problems. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, it's crazy. We didn't have a car. We needed to take a bus to go to the customers. We didn't know anything. We were like 18 years old. We didn't know anything about life, but we could make some money. And when I saw that, and at the same time, I was so bored at school and I knew I couldn't come back to the school, I was like, hey, maybe I could create a business about this, like repairing computer for people, My friend at the time decided to continue his studies and to first get a diploma. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm bored in school. I don't think it's meant for me. Obviously, I have a skill that is useful, so I will just drop school and start my company. It was interesting because I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I did something right, which was to do a small test at a small scale. And if I would have failed the test, it was not a big deal. No, it was not a big risk, but I could see it was working, This gave me the confidence to do the things that can seem a bit crazy to do as so young, like to drop school to start my business. But it was not so easy. I was lucky in my town to have like a few clubs, associations that were helping people to become entrepreneurs. And I was followed for 1 year by a few of them who helped me do everything right, the business plan, and okay, how do you do basic marketing, and what budget do you need to start, and all these kind of things. So I worked 1 year on the project, and I was not at school anymore. And then I started my company. It was great, but after 6 months, the business was almost bankrupt because I didn't know what I was doing. I left high school to become an entrepreneur. You don't become an entrepreneur like that, because obviously my test was a bit biased because I didn't pay any tax. Everything was so cheap. It was not a real test. You know what I mean? Not in real conditions. With a real company and everything, it was very different. And I didn't know what I was doing.
So I know Olivier really well. He's been in my mastermind for 13 years. And one of the things I think we're going to keep coming back to is that idea of testing, because Olivier, and it's not just marketing testing, it's all areas of life and lifestyle. And I'm looking forward to that as we dig into this conversation.
It's amazing to think that, at 18, 19, you started your own business. And I mean, how much education you actually get out of that experience, right? Even though it didn't necessarily succeed in the way you wanted. You mentioned it was 6 months, it was nearly bankrupt or whatever. But I'm curious, what were some of those first lessons that you take out of that? And how did you kind of continue to want to be an entrepreneur after that experience? Because a lot of people would say give up.
The business went almost bankrupt, but it didn't. And from this point, it started to be successful. So the first lesson I learned is as an entrepreneur, it's better to love bulls than ostrich. What do I mean by that? I think, you're like, what? So, because there are two expressions in French, and I think they are the same in English, you will tell me. In French, we say to bury your head in the sand like a ostrich, or to take the bull by the horns. It's the same in English, right? So that's what I did. I saw that I was going to be bankrupt after 6 months because my marketing strategy was not good. And instead of burying my head in the sand, I decided to take the bull by the horns. And what does that mean? It means I had to swallow my pride, talk to all the people who helped me with the project. And I told them exactly what was happening. And it was not easy because you really want to hide your head in the sun when this happens, right? And because obviously many people were skeptic, like, hey, you're too young, get a diploma first and you will see later. And it seemed that they were right, but I was like, okay, I need to solve the problem. And one of the people I talked to told me, hey, I have the solution for you. I look at your business and your business model is okay. Okay, you did a bit of messing up the first month, which is normal. But actually, what you're doing makes sense, and I think you're going to be profitable. You just need a little bit more money to put your head above the water just long enough. It just happened that he was like the head of an association that was helping entrepreneurs, and he said there is this new loan that the government can do, which is very flexible, and you don't even have to pay it back if your business doesn't succeed. I think you can get it. And it would be enough. And he was right. It's exactly what happened. And it was just like, maybe 7,000 euros, so not so much. Many people get credits for this, to buy stupid stuff all the time, right? And just this kind of money was enough for me to put my head above the water for long enough. And then I learned from my mistake, and the business started to be profitable. So a few lessons, right? It's better when you're an entrepreneur to love like bulls instead of ostrich, and it's important to have enough money so you can have a bit of messing around when you're starting, because you will not figure out everything right at the start, right? And third, it's important to learn from your mistake and act fast, right? And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. If you're wrong about your assumptions about the market and your product, you see it immediately. You cannot hide. I mean, if you do, you're just going to have a bankrupt business. You really need to face reality, and that's amazing because it really forces us to be always with our boots on the ground.
So you started this company when you were 18, and you overcame a huge obstacle of that initial finances, and then it was happy sailing from then on, and that's what you do now, and you're all good, right? Or is there like you
No.
Probably, I think I've heard that story goes a little differently as you kept going with that business.
Yeah, the business was starting to do well. I was earning more money than most of my friends, especially the ones who were still students. So it was great, and I was on fire. That's also a good lesson, because in just a few months with this project, I went from the Olivier who was like so demotivated that he was demotivating the teachers, to an unstoppable force, which is so interesting. And that's what I love to say to young people who feel demotivated, Just this project completely transformed me. When I was seeing an obstacle, I was just running into it and destroying it, I didn't change. I mean, I was still the same Olivier, but it's just that I found a project that I really wanted to do, and that's what's challenging me, And I think it's a solution for some people. Maybe many people who feel also demotivated with their life. Like, find something that really excites you, that you really want to accomplish, and, go, like try to accomplish it. And you don't need to take crazy risk. You can do a test before, like I did, before really going all in, but it can really transform yourself and your life. After this business started to be successful, which was great, and a few years I was just so happy that my business was great, and I was a free man, and I didn't have to do school anymore. But after like maybe 4 or 5 years, something happened. It's like more and more, I felt that the unbalance between my professional and my personal life was not good. I was working probably like 60 to 70 hours a week, most of the weeks. I was taking 1 week of holidays every year. I didn't care when I started, but after a while, I was like, hey, is it the life I really want for the rest of my life? It feels like a bit heavy, There's so many things to explore in this life, right, than work. And then that's when I realized that this company I created to be free was actually a jail I created for myself, because I couldn't see how to really lower the time I was putting in the business, because I didn't know how to. I had some employees already, but I didn't know how to delegate well. I was the main provider of value, and I felt that if I would lower my time in the business, it would tank. I couldn't see how to sell the business. It was my only source of income, so I couldn't stop it. I was like, I felt trapped. I felt trapped. I tried to explore some solution. I took some courses, but nothing really worked until a few years later, I read a book that completely changed my life. And this book is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I read this book in like 1 weekend, and it completely changed the way I was seeing my business and my job as an entrepreneur. Because basically, in the book, Tim Ferriss explained how to have a business that is in service of your life, and how to not waste your life, having a business. And many entrepreneurs work too much. So, and one of the books Tim Ferriss recommends at the end of his one is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and I read it like maybe 2 weeks later. I mean, already my face was red here because I took a slap from the 4-Hour Workweek, and then the E-Myth was another slap, so my face was all red because when I read the E-Myth, I mean, Michael Gerber was explaining exactly why I was working too much in my business. How is it possible? Like, I thought, I was conscious of the problem, but I thought I was alone, that I was the only miserable entrepreneur in the world, right? Which is so stupid when you think about it. But anyway, and then I realized that actually not only I'm not alone, but it's a very common problem. And there are solutions, And I'm like, wow. Okay, so first, now I know what I want. I want an internet business because I want the geographic freedom that Tim Ferriss talks about in the 4-Hour Workweek. And wow, I read 2 books in 2 weeks that makes me completely change my point of view about my job, which I have been doing for 8 years. Okay, maybe I should read more books, And I realized it was the biggest mistake I did in my life. I really love reading. I was reading all the time, but I was reading only fiction books. It took me 8 years to figure out that there were good practical books that I could read to be better at what I was doing. Again, when you, with the retrospective, it's so stupid, but I did a very stupid mistake. And then everything connected, I was like, okay, I want to start an internet business. I did this stupid mistake. And I was like, if I did this stupid mistake, probably I'm not the only one to do this mistake. So maybe I should create a blog about great business books and how you can use them to be a better entrepreneur. And that's how I got the idea to start on the internet.
So Olivier, you are learning a lot, but I would argue, and you might as well, that the most important lesson of that first business that you had, you had this amazing lesson that from Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek, that you could create a business and it could be online. It didn't have to control your life. And then from Michael Gerber with E-Myth, that you could build a business that runs without you essentially, or that you don't need to be the operator within. But maybe the biggest lesson from that first business was that there was this wisdom out there that you could get from books or courses or memberships. Would that be accurate that was probably the biggest, most important lesson you learned?
It is. I made a whole blog about why it's important to learn, what you want to do, like the knowledge needed to do what you want to achieve. Yeah, there is a teacher for everything, and it can be in the form of a real teacher or a book or a course or a workshop or whatever. Yeah, it's such a mistake if you don't if you're not actively pursuing like your teacher or some teachers in the field when you want to be good.
When you really get that, because I know for me, so you were probably mid-20s at that time.
I was 27, something like this. Yeah.
For me, it was 30. I was like 34 or 35 when I had that lesson. So you were quicker than me, but for me, it was when I first bought a course from Tony Robbins, and I was like, this lesson, obviously he was teaching all this great stuff, but it was also clear that he was teaching stuff he learned from others, and that changed everything in my life. And Chris, I know you, I think you were actually probably a lot younger when you had this experience.
I was very fortunate that I got into a sales company, an entrepreneurial company, when I was, I think, 19. And I remember the first book they ever got for me was this just book that said The Money Book, and it had $20 in it or something. It was sort of this cheesy sales thing. It's like, here's a money book. You open it and money falls out, right? But I read the book, and it was like, here's how to be rich with your money, like what to do with it. And it just was an idea of like, oh, if I read this, I'll actually, and start implementing this now, I could really set myself up for the future. And then that spiraled into like, Dale Carnegie books and other, sales books basically along the way. And I mean, countless leadership books that wound up making an impact on me as I was growing in that company specifically. So valuable to learn. And everyone, I think, as an entrepreneur has to learn that at some point.
It was just like such an eye opener that you just said it so well, Olivier. Like whatever you want to learn, whatever you need to learn, there's someone that has spent their entire life becoming a world-class expert in that. And for the cost of a book or a course, you can get that. And I think that's what this whole podcast is about, is trying to bring you that hard-fought wisdom. And I mean, that's my business. That's Olivier's business. If you take nothing else from this podcast, that's the secret. That is the secret.
Yeah, we get how we become, right? And if we're growing personally, we become a lot more so that we can actually have more. I think that's a Jim Rohn thing. I think it was one of the earlier books that I remember reading as well from him.
And there you go, Jim Rohn, early mentor of Tony Robbins. Without Jim Rohn, there's likely no Tony Robbins as we know him today.
Well, I think I did Personal Power at some point too when I was young. I remember that being just a big impact on me. And I read The 4-Hour Workweek at one point as well, which was because I had my own version of being trapped in a business for a while. And it's amazing how if you just learn certain strategies, or sometimes it's a mindset shift that needs to happen just to be able to open up the idea of possibility. We get trapped in our own little worlds as entrepreneurs, right? And how easy it is to focus on that and not be able to see the forest for the trees of what we're really building. I'd love to hear more about when you had that realization, Olivier. Was it a sense of like, oh my gosh, I've been screwing this up? And how do you actually, in that moment, when you realize, oh, this is not what I want, like, where do you start to build? Where do you start from there, of that real moment of realization?
Again, these two books made my mind explode, right? It was like, and I felt stupid. I was like, wow, I did everything wrong, basically, So I was like, okay, I need to learn from my mistakes, and I need to try something. So I thought, I was like, okay, now I know how to delegate better. The E-Myth gave me like a blueprint to do it better in my company. So I will try to extract myself as much as possible from my company. It was a small company. I had like 3 employees, so we were 4 total. And then I will try at the same time to build an internet business. And I did a few tries. I started a blog about technology. I did a blog which is a translation of the blog of Leo Babotas and Habits, because he put all his blog in copy left. I think copy left. Yeah, saying like everyone can use my work, use it as much as you want. You don't need my permission. And this blog actually started to do well in French, but I was not happy with it because it was not my voice. Right, so I didn't just need a business. I needed a business with my voice, and then everything came together when I was like, okay, I did this mistake of not reading business books for 8 years. I think many people do that. What about I create a blog to share great business books, but also what I want is to have a project that motivates me to read many business books, but also not only read, but also apply what I learned in my company. And I was like, hey, everything makes sense, everything aligned. And I love to do projects where if I fail on one aspect of the project, I still win on others, because it's impossible to be a complete failure. And I knew like everything was a synergy there, because it would motivate me to read many books. It was an advantage for me that I was an entrepreneur. So it was not only theoretical, it was also like practical. Like, okay, I read this book, here is what I did with my company to implement it. And the blog could become a web business. So I was like, hey, it's amazing. Okay. I also discovered, by the way, another amazing source that really helped me was a personal MBA by Josh Kaufman, which still is a list of like, at the time it was 75, now it's like 99 of the best business books ever. And I started the blog with the project of reading 52 books in 52 weeks and writing one summary every week, publishing one summary every week. And the blog started to do well, and everything was okay because I started to lower the time I was putting in my company. And so I could invest a bit more time in my first blog. Again, had this strategy of testing the waters before jumping in. Because I was not like, okay, I will stop my first company and start a web business. No, I was like, okay, how can I try this approach while keeping the first business so I don't take too much risk? I like taking risk, but I don't like to take crazy risk. I think there are two schools of thought in entrepreneurship. There is the school of thought saying, hey, you need to burn your bridge. You either succeed or you die. Or there is this approach, which is a lean startup approach. Like do a test, see what is working, what not, and see if you need to pivot or not, and see then if you can jump in. And I'm really a believer in the second school. I think the first can work for some people, but you only see the winners and you never see the losers. And the losers usually lose really big. So I don't think this approach is for most people.
Let's dig in for that for a little bit, because, just fast forward for everyone. Olivier has now coached thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs. And everything he does is in the French language, but he's coached thousands of entrepreneurs now on how to build online businesses. And obviously I've coached a lot of people as well. And that is a big question people have about when they're starting out, is like, do you burn the boats? Do you say, I am all in, I'm going to quit my job, I've got a month's salary or a month's savings or a month of expenses saved up, I'm just going to go for it? Or do you do something more gradual? And I know you just gave your answer, Olivier, and mine is the same, frankly, because like when I made the shift and my wife I was at home taking care of two kids. That's what I was doing. My wife was supporting the family. And we said, we're going to wait till the business has replaced her income before we do anything special. So neither of us has the burn the boat strategy, but you certainly, in your coaching, are there some people that you think, yeah, go, you're the right personality or you're in the right situation, go for it? Because I'm sure you've seen some people have success with that.
I think these people don't need me to tell them, actually, I always said I don't recommend these. Obviously, everyone has his own approach and everything, but some people do that and sometimes they succeed, so good for them. I just think on average, the other approach makes more sense for most people. But obviously, you always have some personalities that are more designed, quote, quote, for the first approach.
I think, though, what you meant, that survivorship bias is a key thing. The idea that we hear the stories of people burning the boats and just going for it, and they make for spectacular stories. But we don't know what percent of those actually survived to that point, and we never hear the stories of the people that didn't survive.
Yeah, and I mean, even let's say it's like 50%, which would be a huge success rate. If 50% of the people who lose big because they burned everything, it's bad, right? Probably they will have, okay, so now the question is what will be the success rate of the other approach, but we don't know, right? But if it's the same, then it makes more sense to take more measured risks. So if you lose, you don't lose big and you can rebound. And I think in most cases, it works well if you can think a little bit about how to do your test. The problem is for some people, it's like it opened the doors for procrastination, right? And they never achieve anything. And some people really need to feel the fire burning behind them, so they do something, right?
Could you just tell people a little bit about your business now?
The blog really started to have good traffic. I was earning maybe a few €100 per month from ads and Amazon affiliate links, but it was not real income. And I was like, how can I make money? And I was following this blogger, Australian blogger called Yaros Tarak. He was teaching that, how to make money with a blog. And I remember I didn't know it was a launch at the time, but he launched a course about how to make money with blogging. And it was like, I don't remember exactly, maybe $300, something like this. And I was like super excited because I was like, okay, that's what I need to learn, And I remember I was here in front of my screen with the card, and I never paid so much money on the internet before, especially not for a course. And I was like, is it a scam or not? And I mean, it was stupid. I knew the guy. I saw it was real, and I bought it, and it was a great investment because I learned many things about it. And also, he was recommending the product launch formula. It was a 2.0 version back in the days, I think. And I bought it through his link, and I never followed it. Never. I think I watched 2 lessons, and then I was like taken back into the daily life of my busy entrepreneurial life. And I happened to have a friend who was like a product launch manager. So he had he did your course about how to help people during their launch. And we were talking about it. I don't remember exactly why, but he said, hey, I can help you with that. I can help you do your first launch. And this guy was Sebastian Knight, the French marketer. And I said, okay, yeah, sure. So, he said, okay, here is my price. I will take a commissions out of your launch and I will help you. And he really, really helped me. He really kicked my butt. And I needed that. I didn't know that, but I needed that. Basically, it took 2 months between the time I hired him to do to the first launch. And I mean, it was crazy. I remember when he told me this approximate timeline, I thought, man, you're crazy. We will never be able to launch a product in 2 months. But we did it. I didn't even have an email list, just a blog, So we started with, I just told people, okay, I need to know how to help you more. And we gathered 300 people in the mailing list, which was small, right? But it was very qualified. And basically people told me, we want you to teach us how to create your business and to stop procrastinating, because that was their biggest problem. And so back in the days, I had been an entrepreneur for like 9 years. I was also part of a jury of an association helping people to create their business and raising money. So I saw like maybe 100 people pitching their business. So I was like, hey, maybe I can help them. And so that's when I started to make real money, because the first launch did 20,000 euros. It was only internal on a tiny, tiny list of 300 people and with only emails. It was not fancy at all, only emails. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, okay. So, I needed help from many people, from Tim Ferriss, Michael Gerber, Josh Kaufman, and you, Jeff, because without the product launch formula, I don't think I could have transformed this blog into a business so fast. And 3 months later, we did a bigger launch with partners. And this time we were a bit more fancy because we did some videos. I mean, the videos were ridiculous compared to the standard of today, right? But still, they were better than only emails. And this launch made more or less 140,000 euros in 1 week, because also we had the biggest affiliate we could ever dream of in the French-speaking market, who mailed for us and did 50% of the sales all by himself, and that's what started my journey. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, I can make so much money in such a short time with such a small list. And my blog at the time had maybe 500 people per day visiting the blog. And I read an article by one of the biggest bloggers in France, who said, hey, I'm getting 30,000 visitors a day, and I'm so happy because I'm making 6,000 euros a month. And I was like, wow, I'm having 1/60th of his traffic, and I'm already making more money than him. Holy cow. How is it possible? So I was like, wow, okay. It was obvious. I was like, okay, I need to teach the French bloggers how to make real money, because there is something wrong with how they do it, right? And of course, it's because they were relying on ads and sponsored products and not selling their own products, which is a big mistake, because you make way more money by selling your own products. And that's why I pivoted very fast to teaching web businesses and how to create and grow your online business, and also with my own twist, which is how to have a business in service of your life instead of your life being in service of your business. So that's what I teach now. And I've been doing that for like 14 years now.
And some of this, it's funny, even though we've known each other for so long, some of these pieces I actually didn't know. Yarrow, I'm going to have to check in with Yarrow. I haven't talked to him in forever. But yeah, I remember him promoting my PLF 2.0, Product Launch Formula 2.0 back in 2008. That was my first multi-million-dollar launch, was in 2008. And then Sebastian, I knew you guys worked together and you were close, but I didn't realize that connection. Sebastian attended my product launch manager training, which I did one time only ever. And I only trained about 50 people as launch managers. But then he ends up helping you out and brings you into my world. And now we've known each other for so long. It's just, in this blog, sometimes we connect these strings of history and life-changing history, because then you've gone on to help thousands and thousands and thousands of people in your market be successful. So yeah, it's just amazing.
One of the things that you were talking about was how from the books, from the courses, from the bloggers, you always seem to have found mentors, someone to model, right? And I'm curious to you, how did you know that they were the person? Was it just, they are talking about the results and that's what I want, so I'm going to go figure out what they're doing? Or, is there something else that really resonates with you? For other people, like, how would you suggest they find the right mentors for them to be able to go after something like their, say, business that builds a lifestyle?
When I have a problem, I always try to find a solution. It seems easy. The methodology is easy. Sometimes it's not easy to figure out how you can get some help. And yeah, every time in my life I had to learn something, and sometimes it was like a big jump, like when I went from someone in high school to an entrepreneur. It was a big jump. I always talk to people that I felt could help me, like who were better than me at that. What I was wanting to achieve. Then I discovered that I could also read books, Then I discovered courses could help, actually. Then I discovered also masterminds could help a lot. And, it's like, then you learn all this methodology to learn what you need to learn. But I think really, first you need to have these, to act like, to go find this knowledge in any way about. When I studied, I just knew about talking to people, and I told them about my project and I asked for some help. Like, do you think you can help me? What should I learn? And blah, blah. And it needs to be like all the time. That I also wrote a book that is very critical about the education system, because I think why so many people make the mistake of not reading books, not learning for their life, it's because the school is really bad at teaching people that they need to learn all their life. Many people, they leave the school and they think, or they don't think, it's like maybe just unconscious, but they think in a way that they will never need to learn anything new, right? That, they are done with the school, and now I can just work, It's not really conscious, but they stop learning as much as they did when they were in school. And it's a big mistake. So just have this curiosity and be willing to ask people, and also be willing to look like a fool for a few minutes or a few hours or a few days. I really looked like a fool when I was telling all the people, hey guys, sorry, you believed in me, but I'm fucking it up, and my business is going to be bankrupt in a few weeks if you don't help me, But you need to do that in order to be able to learn.
We have this concept, launch life, right? Of people who have built a business that supports their lifestyle. And when I was thinking of guests and people, you live a kind of exciting life, I think, for a lot of people. Maybe you can give us a little insight into like, what is launch life for you, and what are some of those principles and core things that you focus on, and what's important in your life, and then how that is supported by business.
I can tell you about last year. Last year, I did my best year, best year for the company as an entrepreneur ever. Monitor my time precisely. So I can tell you precisely how much I worked. I worked 21 hours on average per week. I traveled 6 months and a half because I love traveling. I have been traveling 6 months a year, more or less, since 2011. I also took time to write a book. I'm finishing a second book right now. And I really didn't feel stressed at all. And last year, my team and I, we did 5 launches, including the launch of a mastermind. Like 2 years ago, in 2021, I was spending myself around 100 hours per launch, and I was launching maybe 2 times a year or 3. And now I spend less than 50 hours per launch, and we do more launches per year. So that's also what you learn. It's like how to delegate more, how to build a team that can launch for you. I'm still not completely at the point when I just need to show up for the live, but I'm almost there. A launch doesn't feel as stressful as the first ones, for sure.
I can imagine a lot of our listeners are hearing that and being like, well, that sounds awesome. I would love to have that freedom and that life and that ability to do that. And some of them may already be in similar situations too, where they're kind of on the journey, or they're kind of in between that. I'm curious, like when entrepreneurs get into this and they're doing their business, like how do they mess it up along the way, where they get trapped in their business, or maybe they build businesses that aren't supporting their lifestyle, or they don't delegate properly? Like, how are they messing it up, most entrepreneurs? Because I know you work with most people to get them to that point.
The first one, and Michael Gerber really explains this very, very well in his book, The He Myth, is like many entrepreneurs, they work in their business instead that on their business. So in versus on. And what is the difference is like when you work in your business, you're the marketer, you're the writer, you're doing the things, right? And when you work on the business, you put in place the process so people can do that for you. And not only that, but they don't need you to be there. Ideally, you create a structure in your company and processes that will make everything run without you. And this is a big, big difference. And one of the tips I give to my students who already have a successful business but are working too much is like, hey, use a tool to monitor your time. And I just want you to monitor 2 things. Are you working in your business or on your business? And one of the key for the long-term success is to have more and more time spent on the business than in. So how you can delegate, automate what you're doing in your business, and sometimes eliminate. Sometimes you're still doing things because you have been doing this thing for 5 years. It made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't make sense anymore. And you need to, think about it and ask yourself, why I'm still doing that? Is it really useful? And sometimes it's not. So you need to drop it, or maybe give it to someone, but then you delegate anyway. So that's one other thing. Another, which is like this one is counterintuitive. I think it comes from the 4-hour work week. I think it comes from the 4-hour work week. It's like basically most people, when they want to have more time in their life, they're like, okay, I will learn how to be more productive. And they read a book like GTD, Getting Things Done, or something else. They learn a productivity methodology. But the problem with that is like, let's say this methodology like makes you get back 2 hours per week. Yeah, the problem is if you don't know how you will spend this time, most of the time as an entrepreneur, you will be in front of your computer anyway, and you will just find something to fill the void. And this something will be work or something work related, even if it's not really necessary. And so what is counterintuitive is like, I think for many entrepreneurs, you don't need to learn how to be productive first. You need to first find something outside of work that makes you so excited that you can't wait to close your computer to do it. Because when you have this activity that you want to do, then you will be motivated to learn how to be more productive. You will be motivated to be laser focused on what you do instead of being distracted by cat videos or other things, right? You will be really motivated to do what you need to do so you have time to do what you want to do outside of your company. So for me, what I found is traveling. When I travel, when I go to a new place, I want to do 1 billion things besides working, right? I want to explore the place. I want to meet the people. I want to taste the foods. I want to do the activities. I mean, I don't want to be in front of my computer when I go to a new place, right? It doesn't make sense. So it makes me really productive. And same thing when I come back to places I like because I want to experience the place, right? So for me, it's traveling. It can be other things. I think, Jeff, for you, it's like mostly being in nature, doing river trips.
Yep, skiing, hiking, tennis, mountain biking. Yep. We share so many approaches, but can you just talk about how you monitor your time or ways to monitor your time?
So I use a tool called Toggle, which it's a tool that was made for freelancers who want to monitor the time they need to build for their customers, but you can easily hack it to monitor your time. And I use Toggle to monitor the time I spend on different activities I do in my company, but I also have another time monitor that I use at the same time. And right now the two are running concurrently, and it's Clockify. And Clockify, I have only 3 things: in my business, on my business, or on my book, because my book is a separate project and I monitor it differently. So I know every month I watch the time I spent during the last month, and I check if I did something wrong. I either I detail the activities, or I look if I really spend too much time in my company instead of on.
So you're actually, but these tools, you have to sit down and you have to say, okay, now I'm seated down, I'm starting to work.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if you lose 5 minutes or even half an hour here and there, right? I don't want to be precise by the second. I just need to have a good idea of where I spend my time. I think it's precise enough, probably 95% precise. First, you need to think about it, and then it's just a habit. And you do it. I do it all the time.
Just for some people, I mean, we've talked about in the business versus on the business. Could you give even just some examples of like where entrepreneurs would be saying focused on what's in the business versus what's working on the business, so that some of them could,
Yeah, let me give you a good example with my first company. So it was an IT company, and first I was doing computer repairing. And I did the approach that is the typical approach of the entrepreneur who will be trapped by his company, which is a technical approach. Meaning, I was like, okay, I'm good with computers, so I can create a company about it. And why not, But the thing is, many people start their company like that. Oh, I'm a good plumber, I'm a good hairdresser or whatever, and then I can start my own business. Yes, true. But what you don't realize too much when you start is like, yeah, okay, you're good with this technical thing, but when you start your company, you need also to be a good marketer, you need to be good in many, many things, right? And these kind of things you need to learn. So for an example of these in my first company, of the difference between in and on, is like, hey, do I go to repair the computers of my customers by myself? Or I can do it at first, then I write what I've learned. I do processes to make sure that the experience is great and smooth and as standardized as possible between customers. And then I hire someone who is good already with technical stuff, but I teach him the process and I give him the process. And then this guy can start going to see customers instead of me. And then I have more free time to do something else. Like I can, for example, do a marketing strategy and start to implement it. And then same thing, I can process this. The key is to document what you're doing. At first, the problem is it's boring, but I found a hack about it that almost anyone can do. Because nowadays, almost everything you do, especially in the internet business, is in front of a computer. So it means when you need to explain something to someone in your team, you can do a process very easily. Every time you explain something in your screen, just record it at the same time. It takes like 3 seconds to press record, and then you have a video, and the team can watch it every time, So working on your company is also documenting what you're doing, because if you don't, you will be the knowledge in the company and people will need you all the time. And if you go on holidays, they will call you all the time because they will need the knowledge. But if you don't learn your knowledge into a video or a text or whatever, they don't need you as much or not at all. And now with AI, you can give the video to an AI and it will give you an amazing summary, which is amazing. And even if you're not in front of your computer, everyone has an incredible camera now in his pocket. Just pull out your smartphone and record what you're doing. And then it's not the best process in the world, but it's better than nothing.
What you're talking about is the bottlenecks of the, say, CEO or the owner, right? Being able to avoid those bottlenecks when you're working through people. When you're say delegating, right? What are some other important aspects of delegation and empowering? Because at least my experience when I was delegating initially, when I was new at it, some people would still just wind up calling you for every little decision that they have to make because they're worried about messing it up for your business. And how do you empower your people to make smart decisions beyond just like watch the video, I guess?
So I have an interesting way of organizing my company, because how I empower them to not call me is like they don't have my phone number. So even if they want,
don't have it at all.
No, they don't have it. Only one person have my phone number in my whole team, and we are 30 people. It's my COO, and she knows she cannot call me. So yeah, that's it, And why? Because I organize my company on asynchronous communication. Do you understand? Like in most companies, you need to do your communication in real time, in synchronous way. So like when you do a phone call or a meeting, you need to talk to people in real time. But in my company, we don't do that. There is no phone calls. And we really try hard to not do meetings. Sometimes we have to, but it's really heavily discouraged. So we use a software called Asana, that I'm sure you know about, and sometimes emails. And we don't have any office. We don't have any office hours. Everyone work at the time he wants or she wants. We just ask that the projects are done in the time that is given. And so, because I wanted, when I started this intern business, I knew I wanted a business that is in service of my life. So I didn't want to have interruptions. I didn't want to have meetings. I wanted to have the freedom to travel everywhere I wanted, when I wanted. And this really helped me design this from the ground, And it's amazing because first, it's like natural selection. This kind of organization is not meant for everyone. And so it naturally attracts people who are autonomous and people who cannot work with this kind of system. We see these very fast. For the people who are meant for this, they love it. They love it because we give them the freedom to organize themselves as they want. In my team, some people wake up at 5 a.m. and do the miracle morning. Some people wake up at 2 p.m. and go to sleep at 2 a.m. And it's okay. We don't care. Because not everyone has the same cycles. And I think it's kind of stupid and obsolete, actually, to ask everyone to have the same cycle at the same time. Same thing for the classrooms, by the way, but that's another subject. You attract really autonomous people who love the freedom you give them. And I can tell you, so not only it helps you to have a business in service of your life, but it's also great. I mean, the turnover in my company is 0. We never have people leaving because they don't like the company. I never had people leaving the company at all. Everyone is more happy and relaxed, less interruptions, more time to focus on what they need.
How big is your team?
30 people. But so I don't have any employee. They are all freelancers because it's the same thing. I want freedom and flexibility. And the time they do in the company ranges from a few hours per week to almost full time. So if you want the equivalent of full-time people, I don't know exactly, but it's probably between 15 to 20 people of full-time equivalent.
So much of what you're talking about sounds like you've established a culture within your company of autonomy, and people have bought into that. And so much, I think, that is required to be able to, say, build that style of company culture is that people understand what the big picture is or what the overall objectives are, if that makes sense. Would you agree with that you have to have someone who's kind of, at least when they're coming in, communicating how to think about the big picture of the company so that people aren't just making decisions that screw up the company or aren't in alignment with the main objectives?
I didn't have that for a while, but then I hired a COO and she made me do that. Now we have the vision and, and I mean, there is also a very good book about systems, which is, I don't remember the name actually, Thinking Systems maybe for the company. And he said, basically, you need to have the same thing as the laws in your country. You need the laws. The laws are the processes, but you also need the constitution. And the laws cannot go against the constitution. The constitution is above the laws. Every law needs to be compatible with the constitution. And it's the same thing. You need a constitution in your company that give the vision and the direction you're aiming for, and what we strive for. And you cannot have processes that go against this. And it's very
Makes sense.
easy 2080 thing you can implement.
Could you talk a little bit about how you protect your time, and even more specifically, how you manage things on your phone? Because I know that had a big impact on me when I heard you talk about that, and I think it could help a lot of people too.
I read also a book that was recommended by Tim Ferriss, a very old book, 2,000 years old almost, which is, what is the name in English? It's a book by Seneca, the Roman philosopher, about basically managing your time. It's like about the brevity of life or something like this. And he says something very interesting and profound in this book. He says, hey, everyone is defending his physical possessions like his life depends on it. If someone's trying to break into your house, you will try to fight back, or you will not be happy. But he said, it's very strange. Most people don't defend their time at all. But what is most important, your material possessions or your time? And he says, you need to defend your time as much as you defend your material possessions. And when I read that, I was like, wow, amazing. I will do exactly that. So I really, really, really defend hard my time. That's why nobody except my CEO has my phone number in my team. And basically, my phone is in plane mode all the time, almost. And anyway, who calls anymore nowadays? Everyone sends audio messages on WhatsApp, right? So only people who want to annoy you are calling you like your bank, so who cares? And people who wants to sell you stuff. I'm really, really careful about that. And also something I did that completely changed my life, and I teach that also, is like, stop having notifications on your phone. Because again, it's always about interruptions. You cannot let interruptions rule your life. Interruptions is a proven source of distress, unhappiness, low productivity. It's really, really bad. And of course, if you focus on something and you are interrupted, it's not good, right? You need to get out of what you're doing, load in your short-term memory the thing about the interruption, and then come back. And it's a mess. So your default action and habit should be to say no to any interruption. I'm not saying it should be true all the time, but it should be true most of the time. So phone in plane mode, you don't have notification except for a few apps. So like, for example, here I have a notification. It's like an app I use to ask myself, do I dream? Because I'm trying to do lucid dreaming. So I need to look at my hand every few hours to see if I have enough fingers. Long story short, when you're dreaming, your fingers are not okay. So that's when you realize you're dreaming, and then you can become lucid in your dreams. Anyway, so it's very few things, right? I choose the time when I look at my WhatsApp, my Instagram, or whatever. And I can be addicted to these apps, right? Sometimes I check them a bit too much, but at least I choose. And my phone is not interrupting me all the time. It's so important. And I remember a friend, Jason, we were having an amazing time in Thailand at an event for Japanese entrepreneurs. And we were like having such a great time. And then his phone vibrates and he starts looking at his screen, and he suddenly looks unhappy, And I'm like, Jason, what are you doing? We were having such a great time. Is it so important? Show me your notification, please. And he showed me, and it was like a news about somebody being murdered in the US. And I told him, okay, now explain to me, how did it change your life for the better? And can you do anything about this? Do you think it's a great time and place to check this? And he said, no. I said, okay, please deactivate your notification. It's not useful. And so many people are like this, it's just they are kind of victims of their smartphone, and they don't think enough about it. Like, if all the people who are still listening, obviously it's stuff that interests you, right? That's a challenge I give you. Go on your phone now, look at all your notifications. I ask yourself, do I really need to get that? And please do a small test. I'm all about testing the waters before you jump in, right? So for 7 days, deactivate all the notifications in your phone. And after 7 days, see if you're still alive or not. If you're not alive, okay, my bad, I was wrong. If you're live, maybe it means you can deactivate some notification on your phone. And if you're like, yeah, but how my family can contact me? Okay, you can maybe, if really you wouldn't do it otherwise, just let the notification for the app that your family use to contact you. But probably it's better to put your family in an app that only them will use, like Signal. For example, if you use WhatsApp with your contacts, ask your family to come to Signal to message you, so you will only get their notification from them.
That's awesome. And I can say, after hearing you do that, it was a game changer for my attention in my life, was just having the default of turning off notifications with any app or any thing, and then just having very intentional notifications, like you mentioned, the dream one, like what actually serves you and what are your goals, making those part of it. That's awesome advice.
So Olivier, I don't know if you were at the mastermind meeting where we were all pulling out our phones and looking at the there's that where it tells you how many times you've picked up your phone and how many hours per week or hours per day you look at your phone. But what I noticed is I was really proud because I think I had just about the lowest screen time. I think
I was not there. I was not at this one.
Oh yeah, and it was me, and it was Reed Tracy, who is the CEO of Hay House Publishing, who is the biggest business in the room. We were both like, whatever the screen time was, like an hour or something, and so many other people were a lot more. I was like, yay! I'm so proud of this because I do think, what we've got here is we've got apps that are programmed by really, really, really smart people to be as addictive as possible, because that's their business model, is to gather attention and monetize that attention in many different ways. And so every time you pick up your phone, you are fighting a battle against all these amazing data scientists who have studied how to create an app that's as addictive as possible. And so, for me,
they are designed to hack our brain.
Do you have any social media at all? Do you maintain accounts? Or
all my social medias are managed by my team. There is one exception, because I'm writing a book right now about the disruption of the state by the internet and how you can thrive in this new world, and it's require a lot of researches. So I felt, it was really against my will. Kind of, but I felt I had to go on Twitter because most of the people I want to learn from, that's where they share their stuff. And I felt, I was like, holy, I really don't want to go on Twitter, But that's a duty I impose on myself just for the researches on this book. It's like every day, it's like a training to not go. I just want to be on the the people you follow tab and not going on the other one, because that's where all the crack that can make you addicted is, right? So you need to be very careful about that. But yeah, except that, no. My team manage my Instagram, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, and everything.
For me, the only thing I've got on my phone is Instagram, and but I've taken that app and I've buried it as the farthest screen. I have to scroll through like 4 screens of apps to get there.
Any other great tricks or hacks for managing our attention on the phone that you've discovered that might help people?
Well, I don't use it, but I know some people had good success with a locker. You can buy a locker that will lock your phone or anything you put inside for a few hours, and there is no way to unlock it before the time you put. So it can be a bit extreme maybe, but for some people I think it's a good device.
Even just to break the habit, right?
Just turn off whatever, like my phone doesn't ring, my phone doesn't buzz. Here's a challenge. Next time you go out to dinner with a loved one, leave your phone at home.
That's a good one.
And I know that will strike terror in the hearts of many people, but just try it once. It's okay. It really is.
I was when I read this book by Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine, which is, I believe, still one of the best sales books out there. But in this first chapter, it's about time management, and his first thing is touch it once, because so many people will look at something and then, I'll do it later, and it either gets missed or you're just wasting your time thinking about it before you can actually do something. So yeah, touch it once. That was an awesome tip. So let's do our 2-minute taco break here. And so for you, Olivier, what we do here is we ask some fun, rapid fire taco related questions. Okay. And we start off mild with them and they get a little spicier as they go along. We have a few standard ones we ask everyone. And then we've got a few that we just are going to ask you. So to start off, our first question is, are you hard shell or soft shell tacos?
Well, I don't know what it is. Sorry. So you mean like tacos who are hard or soft?
Yeah, so there's the hard shell ones where they're crispy, and then there's ones that are like made out of soft tortilla.
Oh my God, I have no idea, man. I never knew.
Before we started this, Chris, I'm like, we have to have an obligatory joke about Olivier being French. And just
we maybe just found it.
Yeah, maybe we did. Just because, Olivier and Sebastian are in the mastermind, and I've called them the French contingent since the very first meeting back in 2011, and I give them a hard time because. And so, yes, we've just found Olivier. How can you not know tacos? Have you?
No, I know tacos, but I don't know the difference between the two. Like, never saw that. Never realized before there were two different type of tacos.
Yeah, maybe the hard shell are more an American thing.
I never heard hard shell, soft shell for tacos before.
So, the tortilla. The tortilla is the shell. Well, that's what the taco is made out of. And so you can either have the tortilla where it's where it is soft, or you can, when it's deep fried, then it becomes hard, and that's the difference, basically.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I like hard.
Yes, that was the right answer. I love it. And you know what? I think that's great because, we've had a lot of people on here saying they like the soft shell, and I appreciate that there's somebody who's liking the hard shells too. So, and going against the grain, like you do in a lot of the other areas of your life. I like that. So, all right. How about this? Do you like guacamole or do you not like guacamole?
No, I love guacamole. It's amazing.
All right, still batting 100 on that one, Jeff. So next is, would you want some tacos that are mild, medium, or spicy?
I like spicy.
Spicy. Good. All right, let's get to some spicier. How many tacos is too many tacos?
When you feel really heavy and you're starting to regret that you started in the first place, I guess.
Regret. That's the first sign. Yes. All right. How about this? What would be the scariest animal to steal a taco from?
That's a good question. I mean, there are not many animals who will steal a taco, I guess. Tacos. I don't know, a bear, maybe?
I'd say a grizzly bear is pretty scary, yeah. What about you, Jeff? I've never asked that one to you.
No, that's a new question. I mean, there's a lot of them. I think most of them it would be scary, but I was actually thinking a bear as well. Or tiger. Tiger would be pretty scary.
Tiger, yeah, for sure. Let's see. What are the 3 most beautiful places in the world to eat a taco?
Good question. But you absolutely need to have tacos there, or can you bring your own taco?
Well, you can bring your own taco wherever. What would be the 3 most beautiful places that you would want to eat a taco?
All right. So I will say El Nido in the Philippines on the island of Palawan. It's one of the most beautiful places ever, like white sand beaches and transparent water. It's amazing. Jericoacoara in Brazil, which is one of the best spot of kitesurfing in the world and also an amazing place. And third place will be so many amazing places in the world. Probably somewhere in Japan, like Kyoto. I really love to go to Japan.
Jeff, do you have some answers for that too? Because I know you've done some traveling.
Not at the level of that Olivier has, but I'll go with Kyoto. Kyoto is, that's pretty special. The Exumas, which is one of the outer island chains in the Bahamas. And there's some beaches there's one beach I'm thinking of particular on one key in the Exumas that you have to take a sailboat and then a paddleboard and then hike over a little mountain to get there. It's a mile long. I don't think when I was there, it was clear no one had been there in probably a week. There was no footprints. And I didn't have tacos on that beach, but I had them when I got back to the sailboat. And then, of course, I'm going to have to throw in Grand Canyon because that's the spot on Earth where I love above all others, I think. And I've had tacos on the beach many times in various beaches down by the Colorado River in Grand Canyon.
What is one thing that you own you definitely would not want to spill tacos on?
Oh, my computer, because without it, I cannot run my company. So,
yeah, you have to. Wouldn't definitely want to have all the taco juices on the computer.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Makes sense for the online entrepreneurs. Yeah, no laptops, no, can't.
And it would be pretty catastrophic, I would think.
Especially while you're traveling, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. With the 2-minute taco break. As we finish things up here, many of our listeners, Olivier, we have people ranging from just starting off and they're brand new to this launch thing, all the way up to people who are already kicking butt in their business and they're trying to launch their business to the next level. And whether that's being, lifestyle or another level of impact. But we call this show Dare to Launch because we want to dare people to launch. And I want to ask you the question, why should people dare to launch?
Well, I try many methods to sell online, and I think it's the most powerful by far. There is nothing comparable. It's like when you do it right, you not only you make more money in the same amount of time than anything else, but also it's like the best tool to position yourself as the authority in the market, to build your list, to make people who didn't buy happy to have saw your content, which is such an amazing way of selling. I mean, most ways of selling are like abrasive for the prospects. And people who don't buy, usually they don't like how they got sold, right? But no, if you do your launch right, I mean, you cannot please everyone. It's not possible. But most of the people will be very happy to have seen your launch, even the people who didn't buy. And maybe they will come back to another launch like later and buy. Every time I launch, I have people telling me, "Oh, Olivier, I've been following you for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, sometimes 10 years. And finally, I decided to join your course, Now is the day, finally, and you're like, wow, that's amazing, So it really built like a goodwill and momentum over the long term.
Thank you. If people would like to learn more from you or get a chance to, see more from you, where can they do that?
Well, in English, my book was published with the title The Way of the Intelligent Rebel, so they can check that. And also, I just started like a few months ago a Substack blog called Disruptive Horizons that they can check. And basically, it's except from the new book I'm writing about the disruption of state by the internet. So they can have access to excerpt in English for free on this blog.
Well, thank you so much, Olivier. This was awesome. And for our listeners, thank you as well for listening. And we hope this conversation inspires you to dare to launch.